All right, welcome back. We got our good friend Scott Angelle, and he's always been a good friend to this area and very transparent and relates to us pretty well. You always come across as one of us, even though you have these high positions. We do appreciate the fact that, and you also have a little fun when you present these.
Well, you know, what I learned about the people where I'm from and here in Lafourche-Terrebonne area is that if you work hard and you do it with passion and integrity, they expect you to have a little fun.
There you go.
Absolutely.
All right, so we know that when you get into these presentations and you get into such a big undertaking with so much money behind it that drives these things, you got to have a policy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So tell us, how did you establish
Yeah, you know, the starting point, if we get the first slide up, the first slide here, it kind of starts on where the nation got its beginning here. Again, we're talking about 1953 under President Eisenhower establishing the Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act, which made it very clear that the nation was going to develop its offshore resources. And that's where we got our start. And certainly many of the areas here had some of the good economic times that came from the exploration and production of those offshore resources. We go on to the next slide. We clearly, I think, can make a statement that there is a new day, because we went through some tough times. We went through the event in 2010 with the oil spill. A new day here under new administration in offshore matters. And it matters. If you go to the next slide, you will see that within the first several months of this president taking office, he executed an executive order, and it has in the title, Implementing an America First Offshore Energy Strategy. Martin, those 7 words have never been in the title of an executive order signed by a president of the United States. And it's very clear. It's the policy of the United States to encourage energy exploration and production. And you see the president including on the Outer Continental Shelf. So we're talking about making it certain that the policy of this country, again, starting back in 1950s with President Eisenhower, now coming up to a point where through an executive order, we're saying that we have to be a global leader, we have to be resilient. But if you take a look, that last line, underlined, says safe and environmentally responsible. We don't have a choice. I don't believe I'm from a generation of Louisianians or Americans. I don't believe there's any people here that believe that we should be for robust production at the cost of safety. No, right. We believe we can have it all, and I believe that this executive order kind of sets us up. So from there, we begin. If we could continue to go through the slide deck, I'm happy to, I think, provide some information. Again, you know, when we think of the 50s and the 60s, we generally think of if you were going to be an offshore player in the 50s and the 60s, you had to be in the Gulf of Mexico. That may have been true. This is not your grandfather's oil and gas industry, and it's not your grandfather's Gulf of Mexico. Investors have options. This map clearly shows that there are a number of options that companies can choose from, the Gulf of Mexico being one of them. So we're not the only game in town anymore. United States of America is not the only game in town. Our job is to be the best game in town, and that's what we've been working on. Next slide. So we believe there are 6 steps, Mark. We believe there are 6 steps to making certain that we can achieve a more robust Outer Continental Shelf. Certainly, number 1, safety and environment. That's not number 1 by accident. We have to lead with safety and environment. Everyone here believes that everybody should come home safely. And the other 5 are listed out there: access to the resources, that's tied up in the courts right now; regulatory and process reform, that's always ongoing; competitive royalty rates, we'll talk a little bit about that more today; engagement and tax reform, to the credit of the President and Congress, already done. So if we will focus on those 6 things, and one of the things I will share with you as a guy who came from Louisiana to go up to Washington, there's a lot of noise in Washington. There's a lot of distractions in Washington. I choose to stay totally focused on the offshore portfolio because that's what my job is. I let others take care of the other things that go on in Washington. You all kind of hear about them and read about them and whatnot. But I will stay focused on those 6 things. And if we can do those 6 things exceedingly well, we can help produce the energy to fuel America, and we can bring jobs back to Louisiana, to the Gulf Coast.
Let me ask you, because obviously, before you move to the next slide, it's very political. In 1950s, you just alluded to the fact that a president was smart enough, I had good people smart enough around him to understand the impact of the offshore, both inland and offshore community. President Obama sort of put a stranglehold on us. So President Trump comes in and he goes, I'm going to reverse this totally.
Right.
Now you have Senator Cassidy's bill, which, you know, other people know we're producing the goods, but yet they want the money, so they're not eager to give us 50% because it cuts into their piece of the pie. How do you stay focused when all this is going on around you?
Well, look, at the end of the day, any type of royalty provision, any type of sharing of any kind of profits or any kind of revenue or any kind of jobs starts with making sure that more people want to be in the Gulf of Mexico. And if we will stay focused on that, where companies have choices, okay, and if we can stay focused, understanding that companies have choices, we will do what it is that we need to do to make sure that we have a competitive environment. We don't need to be the cheapest. We don't need to be less safe. Our people want to be safe. We just need to be the best, and that comes in a variety of categories. And quite frankly, the next slide clearly shows that we have made a course correction. I think this slide clearly shows, I put together a few stats comparing the last full year of the previous administration and the first full year of this administration. It's a very busy slide, but a couple of things I will share with the audience. In the first full year of this administration, we've had a 44% increase in the number of well permits issued, nearly a 39% increase in the number of wells spud, a 21.5% increase in the number of inspections. We have 8 million barrel of oil equivalent increase in energy production. We've had the highest ever offshore oil production in 2018. Look at the last two on the right. Yet we did it with a 7.4% decrease in BSEE budget expenditures and 11.6% decrease in the BSEE staff on board. We're doing more with less, okay? And if you take a look at the top, I think that those French words really, really address what we're talking about. We've made a course correction, but there's more to do. C'est pas fini. It is not finished. And we'll continue to do that. And that's what we're talking about today.
So why, when I read the papers, and I'm not comparing TV to newspaper, but when you read the print media, and me and my friends have noticed it, it's gloom and doom. When we read it, we're going, it's almost like they're trying to get people to move away from this area. When I read this, I get a totally different picture.
Right. So one of the things that we have there is some statistics that kind of perhaps hide some of the realities. The reality is, while we've had the highest oil production, okay, we haven't had as much new drilling activity as we have liked recently. The second thing is that we have fewer and fewer facilities producing more and more oil. Okay, so again, deeper, more complex. So it's a complex economy there in the offshore area, but clearly, when it comes to offshore, this administration has made a course correction, has focused on safety, has not taken the eye off the ball on safety, has focused on environmental sustainability, has not taken the eye off the ball there, but at the same time recognizes that we can also do those two and have robust production. And we're proving it, and we're going to continue to prove it. And today I want to spend some time with you as we go through the program on the shallow water piece.
But doesn't that, what the president has done, sort of create a whole nother safety environment that creates jobs, because people have to teach this safety. So really, he's boosting your ability to get production going, but he's boosting people to teach safety. It's a double increase for the economy.
Look, at the end of the day, when companies have an opportunity to access the resources and they feel like they can get a fair return on their investment, they are going to spend the kind of dollars that are necessary. And again, as I said today when I was speaking in Houma, folks are going to buy pickup trucks or cars, folks are going to buy furniture. There's going to be a rollover effect for the whole economy. In fact, one of the things that I have a slide up, I'll share with you a little bit later, about what is that domino effect in terms of every $1 million spent, what do we see? And by and large, the reason I'm here in Houma is because this is the area in America that stands the most, that has the most to gain by a robust shallow water policy.
It's ground zero.
Ground zero.
One more short break. When we come back, we're going to really get into the meat and potatoes. Once again, we're privileged to have Director Scott Angelle here, and he puts it in a way no one else really can. So we love his Cajun flair. We'll be right back.